Welcome to the Motivated Martial Arts Podcast. Your hosts, Jackson White and Gavin Cook, have been friends and Taekwondo training partners for over 40 years. This podcast will bring you a mixture of their life stories, martial arts, and business experiences to motivate you in life and throughout your martial arts journey. Adding in a mixture of inspiring interviews and some of the best traditional martial artists around today. So over to your hosts, the Motivated Martial Artists.
Welcome to the Motivated Martial Artist Podcasts with myself, Gavin Cook.
And Jackson White.
And this is episode 2. And today we have a real treat. We have my original instructor, World Master Jackson White Senior with us today. Who's going to be giving a bit of insight into his early years and how he got into martial arts and the changes and things like that in the martial arts in the world today. So we're really looking forward on having Master White on.
Okay, welcome to the podcast, Dad. Good to have you on.
Okay.
So we'll fire off with the first question then, Jackie, really. So it's just really, if you could tell everybody about how you first got into martial arts and a little bit about the early years.
Right, basically, as you know, I was born in Jamaica, went to Boys Town School, grew up between my grandmother and my dad. Came to England when I was about 14, started doing Aikido at the Boys Club. But really, my first inspiration into martial art was watching a program called The Green Hornet with Bruce Lee.
Brilliant.
That was in Jamaica.
Okay.
And obviously when I came to England, I started doing Aikido at school, trained at the Boys Club in Coventry. But that was good, but being one of the biggest boy on the mat, it didn't really excite me.
Okay. So was there any type of martial arts in Jamaica at the time when you were growing up?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. So you came over to England. How old were you when you came over to England?
14.
14, God. And obviously straight into schooling. I suppose in those days you left school 15, 16 type of age?
15.
15.
So school at 15.
Yeah. So what did you do once you left school?
Well, I work at the bar seat market just as a porter. At the same time, I went to college doing a pre-apprentice course into building and construction. But that didn't last long. Started doing Aikido at the Boys Club. That faded off in about maybe 12 months. Carry on working. Then in about 1974, started doing Kung Fu with a guy from Hong Kong.
Brilliant.
That didn't last long either. So I just
why was that? Why was that, do you think?
Pardon?
Why do you think it didn't last long?
Because the guy who was doing the class was from Hong Kong. He was in Britain doing his at university. So once university had finished, he went back.
Okay.
And he just went. He didn't tell any of us. So we were going to the classes for about 2 weeks before we realized he weren't coming back.
Okay.
So we just stopped. And after that, we just knock around from one club to another. But then a friend of mine, while I was working at Ford's in 75, introduced me to Taekwondo, which I've never heard of it before. So I started training with a guy called Barasheen in Coventry.
Okay.
But being as I work in Leamington, it was easier for me to train in Warwick, straight from work. And not only that, £5 a month, I could train 7 days a week.
Okay.
So that was good for me. Yeah. So my instructor at that time then was Dave Oliver.
Yeah.
Which used to pick me up from work and used to take me to all his training sessions.
Okay, was that bouncing around? Was that going around all of the Midlands? So going from the Nuneaton, Warwick,
Nuneaton to Solihull, Warwick, Leamington.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And what?
I used to train with him like four times a week.
So what age were you when you started doing Taekwondo? You remember?
I started doing Taekwondo when I was about maybe 19 because I was working at Ford's then.
Okay.
19.
Okay, Jackie. So when you first got into Taekwondo, then was it an instant attraction or instant love for the sport, or did it take a bit of time to sort of get into it? You know, given obviously that you've done a bit of Aikido and Kung Fu initially.
Well, I did a bit of Taekwondo, Aikido, and Kung Fu previously, but Taekwondo was like there because I had a good friend who works with me at Ford's.
Yeah.
and he was like my daytime tutor. He took me through my patterns and sparring. We trained together like a team, so it was instant, I'd say, good, straight away.
Yeah. And what was always your favourite bit in class? Was it the line work and the patterns, or presumably it was the sparring element?
Line work and patterns.
Okay. Well, over sparring?
Well, line work and pattern was what I was really interested in, because that's what brought me into it in the first place. Sparring didn't come into it until about a year later, when one of my instructor, Bob Howe, gave me a green belt and said, enter into the Welsh Championship.
Okay.
And then my sparring side took off then, because I realised I enjoyed the sparring just as much as my line work and my pattern. So it went from strength to strength there.
Okay, so how did you find that first competition?
Well, my first competition was a bit scary, because in those days you had to fight, the women and the men was in the same division.
Okay.
And my first fight was a Welsh girl.
Oh dear!
And obviously she wasn't standing for the rubbish. And you had to go out to win, right? Because if she had beat me, then obviously it wouldn't look too good for me. But if I beat her up, and the square to win, it still would have looked too good.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a lose-lose situation then.
Yeah, that 2 minutes was like really not happy, because if she beat me, I wouldn't be happy. But if I beat her up, I'd look really bad. So, but luckily for me that day, I got through the fight, I win the fight, and didn't have to do much damage to her, or she did much damage to me.
And I can imagine back in those days they didn't have any safety, or very little safety equipment.
There were no safety gear at all.
No.
The only safety gear I had was a shin pad. That's it. Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah. So I can see quite brutal if you weren't exercising control then. Yeah, you could have. Right, would have been looked quite bad on you.
So Dave Oliver really was your first main instructor then Jackie. How was he?
Well, basically, I would say Dave Oliver was my long time, more permanent instructor. Yeah. But I've trained with another guy in Coventry in the same time as I was training with Dave, doing kickboxing, and he's another D again, Dave Barrett.
Yeah.
So he was like one of my other instructors, which, really a good motivator.
Yeah.
Used to train with him a lot.
And you've always crossed over with the two disciplines, haven't you, Jackie?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so how do you think by training in full contact karate stroke kickboxing and in Taekwondo, how did that help you develop as an athlete and a martial artist?
Well, it makes me more confident when I go to fight, yeah. But it also give me a better idea of the type of fighters you're going to meet when you go on the square, when you go on the circuit to fight, yeah. And you always find it's no good putting down one style for another. It's always who you are individually, and how you react as a fighter.
Okay, and I mean, in those early days as well, the TAGB team, they were going into the Open Karate FSK competitions. So I suppose giving you that versatility really helped and give you a bit of an insight into what those other fighters would be fighting like.
Definitely.
So, moving on from the training, when did you first get selected to represent England or Great Britain in the TAGB squad?
Well, I could have gone to Argentina if I put myself forward, but because of work commitment, I didn't. But after Argentina, I got picked to go to Ireland to fight in the all-star team.
Okay.
Yeah. And I went to Ireland. I won my first fight. Got a knockout. This was in the ring. Got a knockout in about 15 seconds.
Okay.
Of going out to fight.
So what technique did you use for that?
A turning kick.
Okay.
Okay.
Back leg turning kick.
Front leg turning kick.
Okay. Then moving on from Ireland, what was your next selection for?
Next selection was for the European at Crystal Palace.
Mm-hmm. And how did that go?
That didn't go too well. I got put out of the tournament the first round. But I also fight in the select team for England versus Peru. And we won that team event.
How long were you in the team for, Jackie? A long time.
Long time. Not just being in the team, in the squad.
Yeah, in the squad. Yeah.
Yeah. We went to Naples again as a welterweight. Sadly for me again, I got knocked out first round because of health problem. Yeah. But that was my first fight as a welterweight. But after I came back from Naples, I was a welterweight for about maybe 7-8 years. Fight as a welterweight.
Right. So what weight were you previously? Were you fighting up at middleweight or down at lightweight?
Well, before I fight at lightweight in one WACO championship where I came second. That was under 60. That was under 65 kilo. That's the only time I've ever fight as a lightweight. But normally I fight as a middleweight or a heavyweight. In those days they split the weights. They just weigh everybody and split the weight. Lightweight, heavyweight. So being as they used to say I'm rough, they normally stick me in with the heavyweights.
Well, I can certainly talk about the early days when we used to train him when you were welterweight there, and you certainly used to kick like a heavyweight.
Yeah, most definitely. and punch, and strangely enough, ridge hand.
Ridge hand to the ribs.
But I had no choice in that case, because if you've been shoved in with the heavyweight for over 4 years, then you had no choice. You had to fight, because those heavyweight, when they hit you, you know about it. So you have to be able to make them know that you're there as well.
If you don't show them a bit of your power, they'll show you no respect.
That's right.
In terms of your competing career, Jackie, what would you say would be the highlight?
Highlight
of your sort of competing career within the England team?
Well, traveling with the squad, because like when I wanted to join the army or the navy to travel, and they didn't have me in the army or the navy, so I got the chance to travel with the TAGB squad.
Yeah.
And most of the places I've been, if I weren't in the squad, I wouldn't have been able to make those trips. Really my highlight.
So what was your most memorable trip? Best location that you went to with the squad?
The most memorable trip is Ireland. That was when we went to fight the WACO in the ring. Yeah. And that was like that was after the squad came back from Argentina, winning the World Championship in Argentina. And the only reason I went on that trip was because my mate, Arjit Singh, he was off to India. So I took his place. Yeah. And that was like my opening. But that was a trip. Every time I think about a trip that I've been on, I think of that trip in Ireland.
Okay, I can imagine you were the...
good trip after that, but Ireland was my best trip.
I can imagine knocking someone out in 15 seconds with a front leg tourniquet. You were the golden boy, weren't you?
Yeah, and not only that, the party that follows after, that was crazy.
Okay, so...
I always love a party after a tournament.
In good true TAGB tradition, and I think that still carries on today, which is really good.
Definitely.
So obviously you've been around the world fighting. You were in the team and the squad numerous years. A big personality. You helped grow the TAGB with your reputation as a fighter. So tell us about some of the hardest competitors that you'd ever fought against.
Don't ask me about names, man, because I can't remember the names. The only name that comes to my mind really is Kenny Walton.
Okay, Grandmaster Walton now then.
Yeah.
Master Walton, and Kim Stone.
Yeah, you've certainly had some battles with those two over the years, haven't you? Yeah,
I've had some good battle with Kenny. Yeah. I've had some good battle with Kim Stone. Nigel was there, but I was class it as a battle.
Nigel Banks, is that?
Nigel Banks, yeah.
Okay.
Good kicker. There was another guy from Nottingham, from Ralph Minnock Club. I can't remember his name. I think you fight him as a welterweight when he was about 16.
Okay.
I think he was one of the guys who really, if you talk about hard fight, I'd think of him as a hard fight, because it's either Dave disqualify him or Dave disqualify me. And I remember Dave disqualified me twice fighting him. He could have disqualified either of us, but I was the one that drew the short straw, so I got disqualified. And that was hard fight. That weren't like touch contact. That was like knockout contact.
So you've obviously crossed over from semi-contact into full contact in your career, Jackie. What could you sort of say about that? I mean, certainly full contact is something that I've never really touched on.
Well, full contact is when you're in the ring, there's nobody to save you except when you hit the floor, or the referee stop the fight. So there's no running out the ring to save yourself, or the referee pulling the guy off you. Yeah, you have to fight, and that's what a lot of our guys don't understand about full contact. Yeah. Once you're in that ring, you're on your own. You're gonna have to fight. I remember going to a full contact tournament where I had to fight this guy. The guy came in the ring, looked like a matchstick, wearing a pair of glasses. I remember all my mates milking me, saying the guy's glasses was that thick. It was thicker than the milk bottle. The glasses were that thick. And I thought, this guy's going to be like a really easy fight. I'm going to knock him out like first round. And I hit that guy with everything I've got. And he was still there with me at the end of 3 rounds. I win the fight, but my intention was I'm going to knock him out. But it didn't happen. And to look at him, he didn't think he's got to hit him. But he could fight. And he could take punishment. So that's the difference between a guy who goes on the square, score a point and do a runner, score a point and do a runner. I've had loads of fighters who have been in the square with who beats me, but they only do that by catching the point and running out the square. But I notice now the TAGB say if you run out the square, you lose a point. So those guys wouldn't survive now because there's nowhere to run to.
Yeah. So how do you think then? Looking back, and it's a timeless question. How do you think the fighters of yesteryear and in your era compare to the fighters of today?
I think basically I'd say the fighters of today would take a bit more punishment than the fighters of my days.
Okay, that's interesting.
The fighters of my days, I'd say they were more technical.
Okay.
Because if you go to a tournament now, you do never see a guy doing like a jumping reverse turning kick. A jumping side kick, a flying side kick, jumping back fist, jump punch. Those things are not there anymore.
Okay.
Right? Because guys are now staying on the ground and trying to plant as much kicks and punch into the body. Yeah, I think it's a bit rougher now.
Yeah.
But it's not technically. Not technical anymore.
Do you think they're maybe training and fighting a bit smarter now? With obviously all the recent advances in sort of sports science and conditioning and things like that. Do you think maybe that the fighters are maybe taking a slightly different stance on it?
Well, obviously they are. Yeah. They are. Yes.
Okay, so sometimes you're often seen, at national squad training, jogging around and still competing. What motivates you to do that?
Because I like training. Training to me is like training and music goes hand in hand with me. I like playing music and I like training. And it doesn't matter whether I'm feeling up to it or not. Once I get in that gym, I'll be there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's when I was in the national squad, and you'd come down to the training sessions. The team members actually would fear sparring with you still, although you're not as mobile as you used to be back in your heyday. Your timing is always spot on, and the power behind every technique is still ferocious. So they're still quite worried about sparring you, even the younger guys in the team. Recently,
you know what they say about people who, if you got a reputation, people remember that reputation, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
But sometimes you're just going off the reputation.
I mean, you can certainly still. I mean, even now, when you're sparring, you can still hold your own against a lot of the youngsters, can't you? And I think they sort of maybe come in and think, who's this old man that I'm fighting against? Until they get an axe kick on the nose and they realise experience goes a long way.
Okay, so you recently won a world title at the last the Taekwondo International World Championships in the executives division. What got you back into your sparring gear to compete at that event?
Well, because I love sparring, I love competing.
Yeah,
I love to be. I can't go to a tournament and sit and watch tournament. Same way I can't go to a training session and sit and watch training. I have to be a part of it, and I'll always be a part of it as long as my limbs and my health is in working order. Because that's what I like doing. I like training. I don't train to impress people. I train to impress myself. I motivate myself for myself.
Just sort of pulling it back a little bit, Jackie, and going back to sort of basics and things like that. How do you feel as though that Taekwondo and martial arts in general has changed, obviously, over your career? What sort of changes have you seen?
Well, I think there's a lot of changes have to be made in martial art now, because there's like safety. I mean, the way we trained like years ago, I couldn't see that being going on now in the gym.
No.
I think all the instructors, the new instructors comes up with new ideas. The old instructors have to change to accommodate the student that they've got, because most of the student that you got in the gym now, or most of your black belts that's produced now, would never ever survive.
No.
In my time, they wouldn't get to there in my time.
So do you think that's you've mentioned martial arts changes with society. Do you think that's a negative or a positive thing?
Well, I would say it's, in some ways, a negative way, right? Because it's like watering down the martial art to suit the people who want to train, isn't it? Most of the guys who train now, they want to train at a watered down level.
Do you think that it's sort of moving more away from becoming a martial art into more of a lifestyle activity?
I would say more like of a lifestyle activity. Yeah, definitely. People who train now, I think they just train and use it as a fitness kind of a training, instead of a martial art type of training.
Well, you certainly see that, and I think I agree with you. A lot of the people, back in the day, certainly when I started training when I was 5, 6, wouldn't stomach it. The only reason I continued to train.
When you was 4. So if you compare the training you did when you were 4, and the training a 4-year-old do, even when they go for the grading now, and look at the difference between the 4-year-old then and the 4 in your time, it's a complete difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just saying on an earlier podcast, when I remember my first lesson with you, Jackie, when I was 8 at Daventry Boys Club, and that first lesson still sticks with me, because as an instructor now, I know when new students come into me, the sort of things that we tend to do. But back in the day, it was all about repetition. It was all like, you get in the gym, and I think we did low section block for about an hour.
There you go.
And he still can't do it
properly. But that's how it was, wasn't it? It was all about discipline. It was all about respect. There was the repetition over and over again to get the techniques right. And I think And I think these days, there's so much kids and some of the youngsters get bored so quickly. You've got to keep switching and changing what you do in the class to accommodate. I know certainly that you might be do 15 minutes of blocking, then you might move on to an activity, or you might move on to some fitness thing rather than just the old hardcore.
Just continue repetition.
But it's the repetition that makes you good at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, most definitely.
That's right. Well, if you notice now in your class, right, every 10 minutes you have a water break.
Yeah.
Very true.
I'm still trying to come to terms with that now. So when I'm in my class now, right, what I says to my students, I said, whenever you guys want to drink, just stick your hand up and I'll send you for a drink, because I'll just do the class for an hour and completely forget about this water break.
It's easily done, if you get carried away and involved into your teaching. So you mentioned your clubs there. So how are the clubs going? How many schools are you running at the moment?
Well, at the moment I'm doing 3 schools.
So Daventry and Coventry.
Daventry, Coventry, and Southam.
Coventry and Toaster. Actually, 4 and Southam.
And Southam. Yeah, good.
Okay. And what sort of students are you getting into those schools? Is it very much family orientated, children, adults?
Well, in most of the schools they're mostly family. So you got maybe father and son, mother and daughter, or mother, father and sons. You sometimes get four from one family, 2, 3. But it's all about family now. Obviously, you got family. You've got to make sure you can cater for the mother, dad, and the 2 sons or 2 daughters, which can be from the age of 4 up to about 10.
Yeah, it can be challenging, can't it? Because you've got to change your class and change your teaching techniques to suit everybody, or someone will drop out because they won't be catered for.
That's right.
When the sort of families come to class, I mean, what do you feel a lot of their motivations are to train?
I think one of the most thing about these families, they just want to do something together, something as a family, something to participate in as a family.
Yeah, an event, like a lifestyle event or a sport that they can do as a family and have that have that family bond
and time,
sort of bond together. Yeah.
Okay then. So what's been your greatest achievement in martial arts then, Dad?
Well, my greatest achievement is seeing my student growing up, because I've had students from the age of 4. Now they're like, what, 30, 40?
I'm 45, Dad.
Now they're... All right, teaching Taekwondo, and running their own school, successful instructors, and that's my goal. A guy once said to me years ago, do you teach your student everything you know? So I says to him, the answer I give to him, do you teach your son everything you know?
Yeah.
Because obviously you want your son to grow up and be more successful than you are.
Of course.
And it's the same thing with my student. I want my student to grow up and be a better student, be a better martial artist than I am.
That's it. I mean, you're passing.
That is my achievement. That is my joy. That is my pride.
Okay, that's really good.
I mean, you can pass your knowledge on, can't you? But at the end of the day, you've got to let those individuals grow as individuals and put their stamp on what they're teaching and bring in new ideas, haven't you?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got one question for one of our Facebook followers. What sort of training would you recommend for aging students, that have got arthritic knees or ailments in their joints? How do you recommend that they train?
Well, the other training, because I know knee problem. Once you got knee problem, the kicking becomes a problem. Most of the exercise you do for Taekwondo training is like stress. There's no way around it. So my advice for that student is to do a lot of swimming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I could say go on the road and run, but that's going to impact on her knee. I could say do a lot of squat thrusts, star jumps, but those are all impact. Skipping, those are all impact, right? So the best one for her is like do a lot of floor exercise, like sit-ups, and do a lot of swimming.
Okay, that sounds good.
Take the swimming as they're running, go and doing laps and laps of swimming up and down the pool, because that will help with her stamina. Sit-ups, press-ups, and then there's an exercise they call mountain climbing. I don't know if you know. Well, it's like you're doing squat thrusts, but instead of bringing both knees to the chest and
alternate legs.
Knees.
Alternatively, that's not a lot of impact on the knee as squat thrust. But like for kicking, you need squat thrust. You need star jumps. You need to skip.
Sense.
You need to jump. Bouncing around. And the other way is just go and swim. I've told quite a few of my students who's got problem with their knees. If they want to keep the fitness level up, just go and do loads and loads of lengths of swimming.
That sounds sensible advice.
No impact on your knee.
So another question.
All those have impact on your knee.
Another question from the group, specifically from Gavin's club. What was Gavin like as a student in his early days?
That's a sneaky one.
They want to know Gavin, don't they?
I think Gavin was a good student, right? But Gavin never listened.
He's still the same now, Dad.
And it took me about, I think Gavin trained me for a good 3 years before it actually clicked what he was meant to be doing. Even in the line work patterns. But I suppose once it clicked, there were no looking back. It was like
somebody waking up.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm sure his students will be pleased to know about that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay then, Jackie, so I've got a couple of other questions. One more question on here. So what setbacks have you had over your sort of Taekwondo career, which you've had to overcome, obviously, to achieve what you've achieved?
Setbacks, like you mean like injuries
injuries or just problems or things that have happened in your life that the sort of setbacks that you've had to really sort of dig deep to overcome, just to sort of obviously can continue and obviously achieve what you have achieved.
Well, the only setback I've ever had in my Taekwondo life or in my martial art life is injuries. Yeah. Or working when I had to do shift work. I mean, when I started Taekwondo, I did day shift. So it was like really easy for me to finish work, go around my clubs, or go and do my training. But once we start doing three shifts was like 2 weeks days, 2 weeks nights, or a week of days, a week of nights, a week of early.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, by then, I had instructors who could cover me when I was in late.
Yeah.
And when I was in nights and early, I'd cover my class. You just have to adapt. People ask me questions like, why I've never been a full-time instructor. Well, the reason I've never been a full-time instructor, I love training. Yeah. I love competing. Yeah. But also, I had a family I had to feed and look after. And to me, I had a job that does that for me. So I kept my job, stick with my job. I used to run 4 classes a week. Yeah.
And I
was still doing a full-time job.
Yeah.
So I didn't really need to go as a full-time instructor.
No, I mean, and obviously speaking as a full-time instructor, I think the difficulty comes when you're teaching all the time and you've got a big club and you've got a lot of students, is finding the time to actually keep the training up yourself.
That's right. And I know a lot of instructors now. They spend a lot. The full-time instructor, they teach. They've got big classes, but obviously, if you're not training yourself, you still have to find some time to train yourself, because you're at the front of the class telling people what to do. Absolutely. 5 nights a week.
Absolutely.
And the day's going to come when you need to at least go through some of the moves with your student, and if you're the one locking behind, then it's not going to look too good on you. So as an instructor, you still need to find time to teach, to train. And I don't mean just physical training, right? I mean Taekwondo training, line work, patterns.
Yeah. Well, it's the line work and the patterns are some of the quickest things to go, isn't it? When you're not training.
That's right.
Now, fitness is one thing. Anyone could go to the gym, but it's just keeping up those. And like I say, I mean, going back to the years when we were training, when we used to have some long line work sessions, and that's right. And that's where the fitness comes, isn't it?
That's right. That's where you get your fitness from. It doesn't matter how much you go. Even if you go to the gym, to a karate gym, a boxing gym, you punch the pads, you kick the pads, yeah? That's not training. That's not Taekwondo training, because especially if it comes to sparring, you can kick the bag and punch the bag forever and ever, yeah? But when you've got somebody in front of you who's moving, slipping you, dodging you, making you chase them, that's the kind of training you need. And that's the kind of training you need when you're doing line work. Someone shouting at you and you reacting straight away. Those are the kind of training you need, especially for sparring.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think a lot of students, they find the line work monotonous and boring. But actually, that to me, in my clubs that I run, it's the staple diet of all of your training. Okay then, Dad, that's been a really useful insight and getting some knowledge and experience from you. We're going to have to wrap it up for today. It's been absolutely fantastic to have you on. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. And I'm sure our listeners find it really insightful.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much today, Jackie.
No problem.
Always
really appreciate it.
Always good to speak to you.
Bye.
Speak soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.